Today on Hands On Photography, I got a nice image sent to me to take a look at, do a little bit of criticism on it, and a little bit of what would Aunt Pruitt do with this photograph. It's a nice discussion that I got over on my social medias, and I wanted to share a little bit of that conversation from my social media with you, our great listeners. Y'all stay tuned.
This is TWiT.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Aunt Pruitt, and this is Hands On Photography here on TWiT TV. Folks, I really do enjoy sitting down, sharing different tips and tricks that are going to help make you a better photographer and a better post-processor. But I also enjoy going through some of your listener and viewer feedback. In today's episode, that's what we're going to focus on, your feedback. Thank you so much for this support. Thank you for sending it all in. But let's just go ahead and dive right on into this show, shall we? All right. So today we're going to talk about a message that I had over on my Instagram page, Ant_Pruitt on Instagram. If you're not following me, go ahead and do that now, by the way. But yeah, I was on Instagram and I got a message, one of those DM things from Chris Clifford. Christopher, I'm struggling to say your name. I'm so sorry. I keep stumbling over that. But Christopher Clifford sent me a DM in response to something else that I had posted on my Instagram stories. It's a long story. None of that matters. But what ended up happening was just, he started talking about some of his old photography. So let me go ahead and pull up on the screen a little bit of that conversation here. So here we go. In addition to, him talking about what I shared on Instagram, he says, I am also a photographer, and it's really enjoyable to go through previous catalogs and see everything that I've actually witnessed and done. One day I plan on sending you my large panorama so you can play with it in Lightroom. It's about 36 photos stitched together for HDR and for the length. LOL. 36 images. Wow. Then I do get the email, and the email says, hey, Aunt, it made my day to have a celebrity message me today. All right, hold on. We're going to stop right there. Christopher, I'm not a celebrity. No, I'm not a celebrity, but thanks. Anyway, thank you for engaging with your fans. Here's a link to the panorama that I mentioned in our messages. This is a view of downtown Tacoma, Port of Tacoma, and Point Ruston area, shot from Northeast Tacoma on Marine View Drive. So yeah, Tacoma, Seattle area. In the foreground is a pier with a seagull on it. Directly above that is St. Joseph Hospital. It's a funky shaped white building, he says, in Hilltop, Tacoma. It was where I was born and raised, in the Hilltop area of Tacoma. Thanks for all you do on TWiT. I enjoy your work and podcasts. Christopher Clifford. Thank you so much for sending that in. And yes, it was fun having that bit of a chat with you over on Instagram. Again, give me a follow on Instagram. It's Ant_Pruitt. I enjoy going through my comments and chit-chatting with the people that follow me and comment on the stuff that I post. So yeah, give me a follow over there. But let's go ahead and take a look at this image that he sent. He's talking about a panorama photograph, and we talked about panoramic photographs way back on episode, I think it was 42. If I'm wrong, Mr. Victor is going to correct me on the screen because he's the man. But yeah, I think it was episode 42 where we talked about panoramic images, where you take your regular camera sensor, and instead of just creating a 4:3 aspect ratio or 16:9 aspect ratio, whatever your camera is set to, you can get something a lot larger on the long side to make it wide, if you will, like a wide angle shot. But there's some different techniques you can use out there. There's a lot of things built into your camera, built into your smartphone, that allows you to stitch these images together in succession in camera and give you a panoramic photograph. But what I also mentioned in that episode was how you can take groups of images yourself and then run them through some sort of a photography editing application and let that app do the stitching for you. And it'll give you probably give you a little bit more control. And a lot of times you can get a much larger file, much larger resolution. So you got better image quality, more data to play with to really push that post-processing. All right, but let's go ahead and hop on over into Lightroom and take a look-see at what we're working with here. All right, so here's the shot. Yeah, probably help if I actually pull it up into the develop module inside of Lightroom. And here it is. This is the panorama. Very, very, very big file. This is 20,000 pixels by 3,300 pixels. Huge, humongous file. And yeah, it's super duper long on the long edge. Not so much on the height side of things. This is a really, really wide perspective here. And I believe he said he did 36 images to come up with this. That's pretty impressive. But he wanted me to go through this and say, what would Aunt Pruitt do, as we discussed in our Instagram message. So I'm going to tackle this image and just go at it the way I normally would have. But I will give a warning, though. First, let me just go ahead and warn you. When people send over images for image critiques, I hope everyone understands that my critique does not say that your image is wrong. It's not, okay? We are talking art, talking about beautiful photographs that you have snapped, things that you saw that just got your attention and so forth. And what you may see is something that's absolutely beautiful and cool and fantastic, and that's great. I may not agree with it. You may not agree with some of the things that I said, but that's the beauty of art. That's the beauty of having just, constructive criticism to do your photography and image critiques, because you can see a lot of different perspectives and you can take those perspectives to try to help make you get even better at this craft. So again, Mr. Christopher, you're not wrong in this. Okay. But I do have some thoughts and I'm going to work through them. Okay, so let's go back to Lightroom. All right, so we're here inside of Lightroom. And again, this thing it's a long, long, long image. And I don't have a problem with that. The problem that I have right out the gate is the aspect ratio being just too wide. If it's going to be this wide, personally, I would like to have a lot more data shown here at the top, so if you can add more sky to this image, I would do so. Because I don't think adding more sky would take away from this particular image. I think it would actually add more to it. Because let's think about this from a print standpoint. If you see an image like this, with that such a narrow aspect ratio, sorry for hitting the mic, but something with such a narrow aspect ratio, you need to print it out very, very, very largely for it to even, sort of look right. Because other than that, it'll just look like a film strip if you put it up on the wall somewhere. But I think you can get something much nicer with a taller aspect ratio in this, but still keep it wide and still have just a beautiful image and even more of a bolder image, in my opinion. So I'm going to work with that, as well as work with some of the other post-processing on this. For the most part, I think the post-processing looks pretty good. But you sent this over to me as a DNG raw file. I appreciate that, as you see on the screen. So I'm just going to reset this here. Okay, so let's go down and we'll just hit reset. And what Lightroom does is takes everything out that you did and shows me all of those images that you stitched together. That's why we have all of this additional white space on the screen, because this is where the algorithm tried to figure out the best way to stitch together everything you captured. Okay, so first, let's get a crop going here, just like what you did. So we'll crop it down to get rid of those white spaces and pull the bottom up some. And yeah, and we'll take this right edge. The right edge looks okay. Nope. Let's take that right edge and crop it in just a touch too, just a little. Okay. Left edge too. See, that's the thing. You got to look closely, because I missed a little bit of a white edge on the left side too. All right. So there, we got our crop done. And now let's go through and do a little bit of color correction on it. Color wise, this looks a little bit cool on the white balance, even though it says it's shot at 5700 Kelvin, 5700 plus Kelvin. It looks a little cool to me. Maybe that's just the water that's really taking over on my eye. And there's nothing wrong with that. If I warm it up a little more, let's see what happens. Yeah, see, I'm turning this temperature up a little bit higher. Maybe about 67, right at 7,000 Kelvin or so, because I think that brings out the sunset here a little bit more and gives us a little bit more of a glow. And then, of course, I'm going to walk through the overall exposure. I'm going to push it all the way up to where it's overexposed, because if we look at our histogram, we'll see it's clearly overexposed. And then I'm going to bring it back just enough to where it's not overexposed. Okay, there we go. So actually, I ended up having to decrease the exposure just a touch, because if you look here, we were getting close to clipping here in our highlights and in our whites. Now I added a little contrast, but not too much, because if I put too much contrast, I'm going to lose detail back there in the background. And that row of trees and buildings and stuff will just look like a black strip if there's too much black level and not enough shadow information there. So let's increase the shadows. And you notice when I did that, we can get more detail showing way back there on that horizon line. By the way, good job on the horizon line. Nice and straight. Okay. Texture and clarity. Don't really need to do too much with it. I'll give it a little bit of clarity to give some more definition for the clouds. Just a little bit of definition. Clouds don't have to be sharp, okay? But it's nice to be able to see the different shapes of the clouds in the image, in my opinion. And of course, we'll do a little dehaze just to be safe, because a lot of times that dehaze will give you more of that detail in the highlights that you're looking for. And in this case, it does. If I reset this back, take a look at the clouds and watch what happens as I try to dehaze. See? Cloud detail starts to come back, giving you a little bit more interesting cloud texture. Even all the way over here on the left-hand side, those clouds came out a little bit more too. And now we'll push up some vibrance, not necessarily pushing up the saturation. Why not? Let's try it. Let's see what happens. Yeah, saturation is makes it look a little too cartoony for me. So I'll increase it maybe just 2 stops there. All right, so there. I think this is a good start. Yeah, good start. I'm not finished though. What I'd like to do next is take this into Photoshop. So what I'll do is just right click on this image and say edit in Photoshop. And Lightroom and Photoshop are going to sit here and think. But while it's thinking and getting ready to load that up, we're going to take a quick break and come right back. Okay, so we now have this image inside of Photoshop. And again, I don't necessarily have to do any more like touch up on this. We can just really start to make this look a little bit more along the lines of my vision that I had for this. And what I'm talking about is that actual aspect ratio. Again, having this as a wide panorama is totally fine with me. I just think it's a bit too narrow. So what I want to do is make this thing just stretch out a little bit more. And there's a trick to that. So actually, let me reset this. We're going to go ahead and work non-destructively because we are in Photoshop, and we can work non-destructively by using layers in Photoshop. So I'm going to go over here to my layer panel on the right side of the screen, and I'm going to hit Control J on Windows or Command J on a Mac, and that's going to duplicate this layer. So I have a backup layer down here on the bottom just in case I royally screw something up with this image. Okay, so now let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. So I'm going to hit my crop tool here, or C on the keyboard. And I know you're thinking, well, dang, and you hit crop to make it bigger. Well, yeah, I know it sounds a little counterintuitive, but work with me here. Now, when you do this, Photoshop tends to give you a lot of different options in the menu in the upper left, where you can give it a certain aspect ratio and so on and so forth. And I don't want to do any of that. I want to just leave this as is and let me have my own freedom with the cropping. So I'm just going to tell it to do WSD h/resolution. And then I'm going to go ahead and just stretch this up like so. Something like that. As a matter of fact, I want to do a little bit bigger just for the heck of it, just a touch. Okay. Yeah. And then I'm going to hit the little check mark at the top to say, boom. Okay. We're done. So there, we now have a panoramic image that is much bigger on the tall side to sort of look, it just looks better having that aspect ratio right there, right? No, I'm not done, folks. I know you see this transparency grid in the back and that looks terrible, but because we have the magic of Photoshop and the Sensei artificial intelligence, we can fill in that gap there pretty daggum easily by using Photoshop's content aware fill option in here. And they have two different versions. They have the old version and they have the newer version that really dives into the machine learning aspect of it. But quite frankly, the original version works just as good. So first, I'll need to make a selection of this particular area. So while I'm on the same layer, I'm going to go over here to this marquee tool, or M on my keyboard, and I'm going to select the area that is totally transparent and blank like so. But I'm also going to select just a touch over that into the actual image there. So if I zoom in, you can see that my selection went just a touch over the over into the actual image there, and that's fine. So with that selection in place, we're going to hit edit in the edit menu. We're going to select fill, and then you get a new dialog pop up, and it says contents, and you can select the where. You can tell it to fill it with the foreground color, background, yada. But we want content aware. So I'm going to click that. Leave all of these options at the default. Color adaptation is default to on. The opacity is set to 100 and the mode is set to normal. Leave all of that as is. And then we're just going to click OK. And we're going to allow Photoshop to do its post-processing and thinking and calculations and all that good stuff. And this is what's going to happen now. All right. So now we have brand new sky just filled in. Not too bad. Now, granted, this side over here on the right, that looks a little bit wonky, but I don't know. I think I could work with that. Again, we can try this two different ways. You can do it with the old fashioned way, like what I just did, or you can try with the brand new version. As a matter of fact, I'll try it with the brand new version too, just to be, just for kicks and giggles here. So let's undo. No biggie. Go back to file, go back to edit menu, not file. And then you select content aware fill, not the fill menu. And this is going to open up a brand new dialog window and a brand new interface. And you'll get this green bar, this green area. And that green area is basically what Photoshop is going to read to figure out what needs to go into the area that you have selected. So if I wanted to have a piece of this building over here on the right-hand side, or whatever that is here on the left-hand side, if I wanted part of that to show up in this new area, I would need to paint green over that by holding down Alt on my keyboard. Whoops, not Windows, Alt on my keyboard and painting it in, but I'm not going to do that. I just wanted to go with what it's actually got shown here. I wanted to try to figure out more so from the sky to fill in the rest of the sky. I don't necessarily need it to take into effect this down here at the bottom with the horizon line, because none of that matters. Those trees don't matter. Okay, so let's just erase that out. Okay, and now if you look over here on the right-hand side, it gives you a preview of what it's going to create or attempt to create. And this looks pretty good. And then you get an option to output it to a new layer or on the current layer or what have you. So I'm just going to tell it to go to a brand new layer. I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to think and process and give you this results here. And yeah, that looks much better. It does. A lot of times that other version works pretty well, but I guess today, since we're recording, it decided, no, I don't want to work as well. Let's use these new tools. Adobe, are you watching my show? Okay. All right. But yeah, this looks a lot better. So let's go ahead and hit Control D on the keyboard to deselect everything and take a closer look. And yeah, this did all right. I mean, there's a little bit of artifact thing right here in between these two clouds, but I think we can just sort of do a clone stamping and fix that. So let's just do S on the keyboard and make our brush a little bit larger and hit Alt, click, and let's just paint in a little bit more right there, something like that. There we go. Yeah, something like that. And then zoom out. And we'll take care of this little bit of a gradient here too. So let's say stamp there. Make sure it's nice and large. And we'll just paint in a little bit of that gradient, just get rid of it. And this is nitpicking, but it looks better, right? There. So when I zoom out, yeah, that looks much better, right? Got a little bit of glow from everything. We got a bigger cloud over here on the right, and a much better aspect ratio. And then we can save this. And after you hit save, it should take you back to Photoshop. Take you back to Lightroom. So I hit save, Control S or Command S on the keyboard, and then we'll close it. And it brought us back into Lightroom. So now we can take a look at the two different images here. So this was the original image over here. So you got that narrow view. And now this is our final image. And yeah, I think this is much better this way with that aspect ratio, more clouds, because people like clouds. I mean, you get sunsets and clouds, people love that. So why not show more of it? Still give you that same wide field of view, but you know, the eye candy is right there with that clouds and the sunrise there or sunset there. So yeah, take advantage of it. So again, this is the final look of it. There we go. Looks good. All right. So that is it. That are my thoughts on this nice, beautiful panorama that you sent in, Christopher. I do appreciate you sending that. Hey, y'all, if you have any questions, feedback, comment, and you want to send in your images for image critiques, feel free to do so. Shoot an email to hop@twit.tv. Again, that's hop@twit.tv. I answer them as soon as I can. At some point, I do get a lot of emails and I really do appreciate that. But yeah, I answer every single one of them. So yeah, send them on in and I'll be more than happy to take a look. And if it's something that you'd like to, if the image is something you'd like to be shown on the show, sure, let me know. I will show it on the show. I just need to have your consent to do so. So make sure you mention that in the email. All right. All right. So that is it for this week's show, folks. Thank you all so much for the support. Again, if this was your first time catching the show, welcome to you and go ahead and subscribe. I hope this is something that you enjoyed. Subscribe right now on the website, twit.tv/hop. That's twit.tv/HOP for hands-on photography. You see all of our subscription options over there. We're available on all of those platforms, and particularly Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, all that good stuff, even Pocket Cast and Overcast. And if you're an Apple Podcast subscriber, please do me a favor and hit the rating button on there for the stars and leave a comment on the show to let everybody know your thoughts on the show and help push us up in the ratings. 5-star ratings mean a lot, and I really do appreciate them. All right. Thank you all so much for the continued support. Thank you for giving me a follow on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you to Mr. Victor for making me look and sound good and working through all of these magical edits of the show. You are the man. And until next time, folks, you all safely create and dominate. And we'll see you later. Take care.
No ads, just the content. That's what you get when you join Club Twit. You even get extras like Twit Plus, our new bonus feed just for members, and exclusive access to the Club Twit Discord community. Join now for just $7 a month and support Twit as we continue to create top-notch podcasts you expect and deserve. We're just getting started, so be one of the first to join as we build Club Twit from the ground up. You could be an early member. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit to learn more and sign up now. Thanks.